They said my oak trees were a compliance issue. 2 weeks later, they were gone, cut down while I was at work. They thought it was a landscaping decision. It wasn't. It was the moment they turned their luxury resort backyard into land that could never legally be built on again. I've lived on Cedar Ridge for 9 years. I'm a civil engineer by trade. I work in environmental compliance, stormwater systems, watershed impact studies, soil retention. I spend my days preventing erosion and protecting root systems most people don't notice until they're gone, which is why I bought this property. Half an acre, slight slope, 5 mature live oaks lining the rear boundary, at least 60 years old, deep roots, thick canopy. They cooled the entire yard by 10 degrees in summer. They were also fully documented in the county's tree registry. I follow rules for a living. I don't cut corners, I pull permits, I keep records, I file copies. The HOA president, Linda Carver, did not appreciate that. Cedar Ridge Homeowners Association was the kind of community that advertised itself as resort-inspired living. Gated entry, artificial pond, decorative palms planted too close together. Everything curated. Linda liked control more than landscaping. The first time she knocked, it was just a conversation. She stood on my porch holding a clipboard, smiling with tight precision. "Some neighbors have expressed concern," she said. "Your rear tree line is casting excessive shade onto the development parcel behind you." The development parcel was a 6-acre strip recently purchased by an investment group planning to build a private pool complex for HOA residents, lounge decks, fire pits, a clubhouse expansion. My trees sat directly between my yard and their proposed sun deck. "They're protected," I told her calmly. "County registered, native species." She tilted her head. "We're reviewing compliance standards." That was the phrase she liked, compliance standards. Over the next month, she found reasons to visit 3 more times, unannounced. Once while I was pressure washing the driveway, once while I was trimming hedges, once while I was on a conference call, watching her silhouette through the frosted glass. Each time, same tone: safety, community harmony, visibility concerns. Then the letters started, official-looking envelopes stamped with HOA insignia, citations for vegetation encroachment, notices of potential fines, demands for arborist review, their arborist. I responded the same way every time. Certified mail, attached documentation, county code excerpts, photographs with timestamps. The oaks were more than compliant. They were classified as environmentally significant. One afternoon, I found survey flags pushed into my soil along the rear boundary, pink ribbons marking what looked suspiciously like a future fence line. I pulled the plat map from my records drawer and stepped outside with a measuring tape. The flags were 3 feet inside my property. That evening, I emailed Linda a scanned copy of the original lot survey and CC'd the HOA's legal contact. Her reply came quickly. "We are simply preparing for potential enhancements to shared amenities." Enhancements. 2 days later, I heard chainsaws. Not on my property, behind it. I stepped out back and saw contractors clearing brush on the development parcel. They weren't near my trees yet, but they were close enough that sawdust drifted across the fence line like dry snow. I installed cameras that night. Discreet, motion-activated, backed up to cloud storage. I wasn't paranoid, I was methodical. The final warning came disguised as courtesy. Linda arrived one Saturday morning with a folded paper in her hand. "We've received legal guidance," she said. "If your trees pose obstruction to planned community improvements, the HOA may take corrective action." "Corrective action on private property?" I asked evenly. She smiled again, thinner this time. "We're evaluating options." That was the moment I understood. This wasn't about shade, it was about leverage. And people who believe authority is implied don't usually ask before they take. I checked my cameras again that night and waited.
If you enjoy the video, please subscribe. They came on a Tuesday, 10:17 a.m. I know the time because I was in a project meeting when my phone vibrated. Motion alert, rear boundary. I excused myself quietly and opened the feed. 3 contractors, 2 chainsaws, and Linda standing behind them in sunglasses. They had entered through the development parcel and stepped across the property line without hesitation. No knock, no notice, no court order. The first oak fell at 10:24 a.m. You don't mistake that sound. It's not just wood splitting. It's a deep structural rupture, a vibration you feel through soil. They cut 2 more before I reached my car. By the time I pulled into my driveway, sawdust coated the fence. Branches lay across my lawn. Linda didn't look surprised to see me. "We determined they were invasive to planned infrastructure," she said before I spoke. "This is within HOA authority." I looked at the stumps. Fresh rings, healthy cores, no rot. "You crossed a recorded boundary," I said calmly, "and removed protected trees." She folded her arms. "We'll handle any fines." She believed it was a landscaping dispute. It wasn't. I didn't yell. I photographed everything. Close-ups of cut angles, boot prints in my soil, license plates. Then I called the County Environmental Protection Office. By 3 p.m., an inspector stood in my yard examining the stumps. "These are registered live oaks," he said quietly. "You have documentation?" I handed him a folder. Permits, registry confirmation, survey map, camera stills printed with timestamps. He nodded once. "Do not touch anything," he said. "We'll issue a stop work order immediately." The development parcel fell silent the next morning. Then the letters shifted tone, from threats to negotiation. Linda emailed that the removal was a misunderstanding. She suggested the HOA would re-landscape generously. I forwarded the email to my attorney. Because here's what Linda hadn't considered. Those oaks weren't just protected. They anchored a designated root preservation zone extending 15 feet from each trunk. Cutting them destabilized the slope between my yard and the development parcel. Under County Environmental Code, any land impacted by unlawful removal of protected trees required a full geotechnical assessment before further construction could proceed. The assessment revealed what I already knew. Without the root systems, soil retention on the boundary line was compromised. Any large-scale hardscaping, pool decks, foundations, concrete structures now required reinforced retaining systems and engineered stabilization, costing more than the entire landscaping budget. The stop work order became a formal environmental violation notice. Fines accrued daily. Then came the preservation directive. Until remediation plans were approved and slope stability restored, no vertical construction could occur within 30 feet of the boundary. 30 feet eliminated the planned clubhouse expansion entirely. The resort backyard became an open, unusable strip of dirt. Linda doubled down at the emergency HOA meeting announcement. "External agencies are overreaching," she wrote. "We acted in community interest." But documentation doesn't argue. It accumulates. By the time the county filed formal charges for unlawful removal of protected trees and unpermitted land disturbance, the investment group behind the development withdrew. Insurance refused coverage due to willful violation, and the HOA's legal counsel requested a special session, not to negotiate with me, to assess liability exposure. They weren't untouchable. They were cornered. The HOA meeting was standing room only. Folding chairs filled the clubhouse. Neighbors who had once ignored the letters now held copies of violation notices in their laps. Linda sat at the front table, posture rigid. The county inspector attended. So did my attorney. When my turn came, I didn't dramatize. I connected my laptop to the projector. Video played first. Timestamp, 10:17 a.m. Contractors stepping across the clearly visible survey line. Linda directing them with a hand gesture. Chainsaws engaging. Then still images, property registry documents, environmental code excerpts, the official stop work order. Finally, the geotechnical report summary stating, "Unlawful removal of mature root systems has rendered proposed construction footprint structurally unstable without substantial engineered remediation." The room was silent. The county inspector explained the fines. Per tree, per day, plus mandatory restoration costs calculated by trunk diameter and age. The numbers were not small. Insurance denial letters followed. Then the legal opinion from HOA counsel. Personal liability exposure for willful authorization of protected tree removal. Board vote for removal of president pending investigation. Linda tried to speak, but authority depends on credibility, and credibility had been cut down weeks earlier. Within 30 days,
She was removed from the board. The HOA entered a settlement agreement with me covering tree valuation, property restoration, and legal fees.